Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Neeraj Mathrani, and you're listening to Leadership with Neeraj. In this podcast, I chat with Ver, who's a software engineer, about the recent layoffs in tech. Specifically, he's wondering, is it worth working hard at your current job if layoffs can happen at any time? And how to best hedge against a possible layoff in the future. We'll also cover other topics, such as ensuring that your needs are met in your current job and examples of those needs, what are early signs to look for to check if a company may not be best for your future, and how to own your own career success. Welcome, Ver.
Awesome. Thanks, Niraj. I appreciate you. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me here.
Of course.
Observing what's going on in the tech industry right now, there are mass layoffs, there are huge company rifts, and just generally, like the economy is doing what it's doing. Fortunately, I haven't been affected by mass layoffs culturally as well as personally, right? If I'm okay, right, I should just, suck it up and just, keep on keeping on. But I guess I've seen different scenarios, from peers or just people that I know where, they're working at a company, they probably went above and beyond, multiple review cycles in a row just to be ultimately laid off. Even in this environment where there aren't any mass layoffs, sometimes you could be working as hard as you can. You could be doing all the right things, but you might not progress in your career, like pass on a promotion, not getting a pay raise, losing out to inflation. But I guess, does the changing market with what's going on in the tech industry does that kind of change that?
Repeating it back, are you
Sure.
saying that is it even worth working hard if the layoffs could happen anytime?
Ultimately, yeah.
That's why I try to create a win win situation, make sure that you're getting something out of it as well.
Mhm.
Try to think about what are all the things that you care about. For example, is the salary what you're looking for? It could be different skill sets you want to grow. Are you getting recognition for what you are contributing to the company? If you're continuously being passed on promotions or you're not getting raises or you're getting raises that don't really match up with inflation, I think those are early warning signs that maybe this is not the right place for you.
Mhm.
And what I would say personally is continue working hard as long as you're getting what you're expecting from the job as well. And I don't mean entitlement, where it's like I joined a job and within 6 months I want a promotion and all that stuff. Usually, getting a promotion and raises can take time. It could be a year. But if within a year you're not getting any recognition of that sort that you're looking for, then I think those are early warning signs that maybe this is not the right place.
Understood. I guess, can you elaborate on more of what warning signs should one look out for, especially if their goal is to still grow in their career? And how can you recognize those things early?
I don't think everything is predictable. Like some of
Mhm.
these layoffs that happened, they just came out of nowhere. In some cases, leaders could have predicted it. For example, be very mindful of how you're bringing in people, be very clear of your strategy and vision, and bring in people accordingly. But in some cases, leaders overhired. So we wouldn't know that. And the economy is very hard to predict.
Mhm.
So I think at our level, at our scope, it would be maybe creating a list of everything you're looking for from the job and then checking that every 6 months or every year and seeing, are you getting what you're expecting? Are you getting opportunities to grow? For example, learn technology X and you're not getting that opportunity as much because you're just doing the work of just keeping things alive, just doing bugs and so forth. Are you being fairly compensated to your level that you're expecting? Is there transparency from your manager on what's happening with your career? What feedback do they have? For example, there could be a reason why you don't get a raise or don't get a promotion, but is your manager being very clear where those gaps are? Like, hey, these are the specific skills or experience you need to gain and specific value you need to add before you can get that promotion. I
Mhm.
think all those are valuable. And if you're not getting that, then those would be early warning signs for me, that not necessarily warning signs about layoffs, but warning signs that this may not be the right place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think coming back to career development as well, one kind of note I want to highlight there is that we own our own careers. We can't look for a manager to come save us. There are great managers and then there are not so great managers. There are managers who are really going to invest in your career, help you out, create opportunities, advocate for you, give you that clear direction, and then give you hard critical feedback when they need to really help you out. And then there are managers who don't do some of that stuff. In the end, we all own our own careers. As employees, being your own advocate, being very clear on what those goals are, asking proactively for feedback from your manager, And also with career development, making sure that you're taking the steps to grow, seeking out mentors where you need to, for example, seeking out coaching, all that stuff is important.
I think that's the biggest takeaway here is it's not just getting into a job and doing the daily tasks. You have to own your career, your personal development.
Yeah. I think the other thing is also being realistic on expectations. Like I said earlier, if someone joins a new job, you can't expect to be promoted within a month. Usually it takes 90 days just to kind of ramp up in that role. Unless, of course, the levels are completely off, where that's a candid conversation with your manager. Like, hey, I was supposed to be senior, but I'm an associate. Like, what's going on here? Things are really off here.
Mhm.
But usually it can take up to a year to truly understand performance. Even 6 months, it could be like, oh, wow, this person is performing at a level higher than we thought they were. It could be, let's give it another 6 months because you want to show that higher performance consistently.
Awesome. I understand.
If you want to get promoted to the next level or get that raise, then I would actually go a little above and beyond. Like, I wouldn't say, hey, give 200% of your time, because that's not possible with family
Mhm.
and so forth. And I also don't want to equate it to time. It's more about the results that we accomplish versus the time. If companies are expecting you to do 10, 12-hour days, that's another warning sign, versus if they're expecting, hey, 10% more output as an example to show that you're next level or something. I think that's reasonable. For me, it's like going above and beyond a little bit and then seeing, hey, does the company eventually reciprocate that? We have to invest first. We have to give more to our users, give more to the company, a little bit more than what's expected. And again, this is a good conversation with your manager, which is, hey, what would an above expectations or exceeded expectations rating look like? And try to achieve that. So more results, and try to be more effective with your time. So you're not putting more time, just achieving more. And then seeing, does the company reciprocate that in 6 months or a year? And if they're not doing that, that's another warning sign for me, where it's like, hey, I've invested, a year has passed and I haven't got a raise or any promotion. And it's also coming back to what kind of transparency your manager is having with you about that, where it's like, hey, sorry, actually, we just don't have the budget for this, but here's something else we can do in the meantime. We could do a spot bonus or stocks or something like that. Or, hey, let's just have this conversation 6 months down the line. So those are things the manager can do. But I would just say, again, coming back to us owning our career, where it's like we have to go above and beyond first before we expect the company to recognize that. But also don't wait too long for your company to recognize you.
Yeah, it's definitely
Um,
a balance.
yeah, exactly.
Awesome. The last part of my, I guess, general question around tech industry layoffs is how could one or how could I kind of hedge against the risk of potentially being laid off? Like, what is your opinion on that?
Things are going to happen outside of our control. For example, the economy is part of it, or poor decisions by leadership that the company then needs to pay for down the line, which I can go off on a whole tangent there.
Sure.
But there's a part that is outside of our control. And then what's in our control is making sure that you are getting what you need out of this as well. Again, for me, it's like creating that win-win situation Venn diagram about you are getting as much value from the company as possible in terms of your career development, in terms of your growth. You're getting feedback, you're getting the skills that you're expecting to learn, you're getting experience, and you're adding value to the company, which is a win for the company. That's just in the context of the company itself.
Mhm.
And of course, now there are all these movements about financial independence and so forth, where you and I have talked about this, that having one job can be that one leg for the stool. I think you put that very eloquently when we were talking about it in the past, where it's like, if it gets knocked off, that's it. And again, you can hedge against it by having 3 to 6 months of savings. I'm not a financial advisor, so anyone listening to this podcast, just putting that out there. But those are things that people can do. But what this current layoffs is showing a lot of people is that one job may not be enough. It could be side hustles to actually hedge against it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, right? I think I said it like that phrase earlier, right? We've been told one thing most of our lives, or at least in the earlier generations, right? You just get one job and you work it, right? But if it's just the one job, exactly. If it's just one leg and that leg gets, taken away, you
Mhm.
don't have any support, no way to support you and your family. But yeah, no, hedging against other things that within your control, even outside of the career aspect or the company aspect or even the employee aspect, there are things to do that, which is a totally different video,
Right.
totally different topic. which you're right. We have spoken about that, and I agree. And, if you're watching the video, I'd hope these viewers would also be aware of that as well, because it does help. I think the ultimate thing for me, especially having worked with you and also, talking to you about these things, is continue doing the things related to your career development, personal development, get the value out of that, provide the value so you can grow. But there are also other ways to, if the unfortunate thing happens, such as a layoff, there are ways to protect against that. Or at least if you're doing these things like with career development, personal development, you'll be equipped to, go out and search for that next job that can, that sees the value in you. And I've seen
Exactly.
that too as well. My hope is kind of this conversation helps ones who are seeking out that information, who might be in the position where they're looking for a job or they're in a job and they might be feeling the same way. So this definitely helps. And I hope it also helps others.
Yeah, just make sure you continue reflecting. What are you looking for from your career? Working towards that as well, and creating that win-win situation. And if that's not being reciprocated, think about some of those early signs again. And I wish you all the best, man.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so much
much.
for coming on the podcast, for talking about this sensitive topic. And I hope it was helpful for people as well.
Definitely. Yeah. And if you're watching this video and you got all the way to the end, obviously subscribe to Niraj, hit the like button. He talks about leadership, career development, personal development, and he's a career coach. So if you're wanting this one-on-one session, get in touch with him as well.
Thanks, for.
Of course.
If you have recently been laid off, my heart goes out to you. And I have a video to help you get back on your feet as soon as possible. I'll link that in the description or the show notes.